Well, hello, my friends, and welcome back again. I'm sitting here on what is almost a spring day. About another 3.5 weeks, and we'll be into spring. And I can't wait for it. Got my cup of coffee because I was getting a little tired and starting to doze off. And it's just afternoon. I got home from work and I was exhausted. It's been a long week. And I woke myself back up and made some coffee, and I was thinking about America and, the ridiculousness of the state of the world right now, but especially my own country. I know a lot of people would differ on this, of course, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So, as I sip my delicious coffee, the red-blooded American who just got home from his blue-collar job doing construction, I can say I love this place. I love this country. I love the people in it. There have been times when I've been a little bit like not anti-American, but anti-consumer American, the faux Americanism. I'm going to call it neo-Americanism because we've got neoliberalism, this whole commercialization of everything posing as, being liberal. There's neos everywhere, but this country is complicated because it was founded on the principles of freedom from oppression from another country, the decision to run things our own way. And it wasn't always easy, and it's still not easy. But the real theme of this discussion was going to centralize around diplomacy, which is what occurred to me and what I was thinking earlier. Like, what exactly have we lost? If I were just to narrow it down to a word, something that we've lost in this country that has caused us to be at such odds with one another, such anger towards politics that I've never seen before. I've grown up with people who disagreed on politics plenty. Everybody growing up in the 80s and 90s went to some fucking family dinner around Thanksgiving or something where there was always the uncle that would either rant about politics or, the uncle that always watched Fox News in the other room at the liberal dinner, that kind of shit. But it didn't really bother people that much. They just kind of roll their eyes and be like, turn that shit off. And you'd be like, fuck you. It's like not a big deal. People move on. They don't base their whole lives around politics, which is what's happened lately in this country. And when I thought about the need for diplomacy, and I tried to reconcile that with America first. You see, I believe in the principle of America first, but I wanted to be able to understand this on a deeper level. This doesn't mean that we don't have diplomacy in other countries. This doesn't mean that we cut aid or help or assistance to other places. Because China actually in 2019 surpassed the US in the amount of diplomatic posts they have around the world. And people kind of write that off as, whatever, China, they're going to fall behind too. What people don't realize is the immense amount of resources and people that China really has, but their ability to, with their Belt Road Initiative, which is like the new Silk Road, they're able to convince other countries to let them set up their trains running through their countries. They get all kinds of freebies by just making promises. And, the U.S. was once a leader, not just in world power or domination. You see, that comes with a set of responsibilities. Diplomacy, taking care of other countries. Partially what triggered my thought on this today was I read an article yesterday that, Zelensky was coming to the White House to talk with Trump. And all I could think was, fuck. Zelensky's probably not going to make the deal that they want, which is they want mineral rights, but Zelensky wants security for the future, guarantees. And I don't ever, I rarely watch, okay, sometimes I do, but I try not to watch these White House meetings and all, I don't get wrapped up in the politics and watch the news and look at everything that's going on. I know it's just a lot of vitriol from both sides in this country right now. But when I watched this, it was J.D. Vance and Trump just attacking Zelensky. JD would ask him a bunch of questions, and just rudely. And then when Zelensky tried to answer, Trump would interrupt him. And, basically what happened was he didn't make the deal. And Trump wanted to make a deal. And so now we have a country, because the entire time during Biden's presidency, I did not support funding Ukraine or weapons. I thought that just puts us closer to war. And I still stand by this. I don't think that we should be supplying weapons to Ukraine. I don't think we ever should have been sending over, tens of billions of dollars for this. That's just my opinion on it. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't support them, at least, and in some form. I mean, financially, maybe. I mean, the thing is, keeping a country able to help itself. I've never seen a time when all of a sudden a lot of Americans, are pro-Russia to an extent. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I've just never seen anything like this, and they're all conservatives. They're all the ones, because the way they talked, they were supposed to have a briefing or whatnot, and I guess apparently Zelensky got kicked out of the White House. They left early before the scheduled briefing or meeting, whatever they were going to have. The official, I don't know. But afterwards, Trump posted something nasty about him online and said he doesn't want peace. When he wants peace, he can come back. And Zelensky posted something which was very respectful, said thank you, Trump, and thank you to the White House. And so I saw a comment on, I think, the video where I watched that, and it said, Ukraine elected a comedian as a leader, and he turned out to be a strong man for the people. America elected a businessman, and he turned out to be a clown. And I couldn't have summed it up any better myself. And I thought about this, how divisive it is to even say anything politically negative about any politician. I got the same amount of flack from people when I was talking about Biden, when he was running, before Democrats finally admitted that Biden was incompetent to run. Everybody was like, this guy's great, he's the best. And I'm just like, no, he's not. And then I saw a comment that said something like, it sucks to live in a time when I don't feel like any politicians have my best interests at heart. And I was like, welcome to my entire fucking life. I've never felt that way. I've never leaned one way or the other. I did vote for Obama, hoping for change. I thought, well, what the hell? There was a lot of excitement back then. That, wow, it's a black president. He seems cool. Maybe he'll fucking shake some shit up. Nope. Just drop more bombs and more debt. The same old shit, that we'd always face. But even before his second election, I looked at the financing between him and McCain. And it was like they were both, their first donor was, because here's the thing, Americans just don't look at this. When I talk about this with other Americans, when they talk about voting and what's important, I say, have you looked at who their financiers are? And people just don't care. They never have cared. They were both Goldman Sachs. The bankers, yes, part of the same system that we bailed out at the end of the presidency in 2008 there, because you got to save the banks but not the people. And right now we're doing the exact same thing in this country, but calling it America first. It's a plundering of the norms in this country in such a shocking, quick fashion that people don't know whether it's good or bad. People have to take the word of the current administration that what they're doing is good for the people. Now, there are two sides of this. The people on the fence that believe anything Trump and Elon do must be for the people and good for the people, and that it's America first. And then there's the other half who think, no, this is most likely going to benefit people like them, because in very simple terms, what billionaire would actually recuse himself from passing a loophole or tax law that would benefit him and his own cronies? power and wealth are what these people seek, and if they can gain it, do I really believe that Elon's going to say, oh, hey boss, I can't do this because this might be one of the accounts that conflicts with me? Maybe, maybe not. But I feel like this whole kind of crony capitalism has come to a head now. And, you know, over the years, I've heard of every different political persuasion. You know, of course, like the rest of us, any Americans heard, you know, this, we've seen this creeping up of communism, self-described communist channels on YouTube. Like, and I watch these guys because I'm curious, like, do you really believe that? Do you really think communism is the solution? Now, socialism I can get behind because we already have it. Hint, hint to Republicans that don't realize that a lot of the programs we have are socialism, but a lot do realize this and they want to get rid of them. And this is what they're doing right now, or attempting to do, is get rid of most of the social programs that aren't the most extreme ones. For example, you can't just ditch Medicaid and Medicare 100%. You can't just leave people to die in the streets. There are certain programs that actually really are very important for Americans. The school, that's a debatable one, but yes, we still need funding for schools. We just need a better system. But what's happened is all of our government programs have been raped and privatized over the years. And I have mixed feelings on this too. So even subcontracting out our military to mercenaries, right? And contractors. Is this good or bad? A lot of people complain. I say, well, shit, these are people who took a job and they're willing to do this job. But the other side of that is they can do the job any way they want. There are no standards. As much as I know my country cheats and bullies and bullshits, I know that the military has standards. I've seen how other countries fight. Even in war, there are standards. Allowing the other side to clear the battlefield, these kinds of things back in World War I and II, you know, the white flag. People respect this because war is a motherfucker, and most people who are in the upper classes don't ever have to send their children off to war. It's fought by the peons, you know. And then these people come back and they're treated like shit, and they have a horrible, you know, medical system through the Veterans Administration, and these things do need to be fixed and improved. But privatizing them, I don't know if that's the solution. But let me get back to America first. Like I said, I love my country. I love the people in it. I don't love the government, and I never have. The federal government. I think that a lot of our state and local governments work phenomenal. For anybody out there in Texas who wants to bitch about Portland, shut the fuck up and mind your own business, right? We have different states. And same from people in Oregon who want to bitch about Texans. Look, you don't live there. If you want to move there, move there. If you don't like the way things are here, fine. If you don't like the way things are there, move here. You can move freely between the U.S. states right now. The way we have this country set up is we have federal oversight, but the country is free to move about. And this is something that you don't have in every country. We don't have barriers and blockades. The worst you might run into is a fucking police checkpoint for DUI, probably in some small town where they're trying to rape your wallet, or a speed trap somewhere on a coastal town because that's how they make all their money. There's a lot of corruption, okay? My country has a ton of corruption, but no more or less probably than any other country. I would say far less. I mean, at least we didn't do what did they do in Ecuador, I think, where they made the some cryptocurrency the national currency and then rug pulled it on the population. Like, shit's getting weird out there, okay? And I want to be able to move into the future and say, I care about my neighbor. I also care about neighbors I've never met. And this is where it comes to the second part. Yes, America first, as long as you can take care of yourself. But diplomacy is the key. And how I want to define this is, when you're a kid, let's just say a family unit, right? You have diplomacy. Let's just get right down to the basic family unit. You need diplomacy in the household. You need to be able to set boundaries and rules. You need to let other people know where you stand on issues, but you also need to kind of accept opinions maybe you don't agree with, sometimes roll your eyes, but still, no matter how bad it gets, if your kid falls down and skins his knee out front, you're going to run out and help him. Because your well-being depends on his well-being. Even if it doesn't really affect you directly, it affects your mentality because you care about him, right? It's your child. You feel like you're helping your family unit. If you let them struggle and suffer, I mean, that's not really going to benefit anyone, right? So let's move on to the neighborhood. You might know your direct neighbors, but maybe not the neighbor down the street. And so if the neighbor around you gets hurt or needs help, you'll loan them a generator, like my neighbors did to me when our power went out and the tree knocked out the line. They brought us over a generator and let us use their firewood. Amazing people, right? And this benefits all of us because they're an older couple. If they ever need help or assistance, I'll be glad to help them because it's a mutual benefit. But even if one side has more to give, it doesn't matter. You do it because you believe in humanity and you care about people, okay? So you see where I'm going with this. This extends into your local community. You might have a community center. You might go to your city council meetings and listen and talk about things. But usually, you know, with a calm demeanor, people discussing, you might not agree, but you come to a conclusion. Then let's move to the state level, state legislature. You've got your senators and your congresspeople who, you know, interact with the federal government and with other states in order to keep this shit rolling, keep things functioning, right? All the way up, we want to care about the constituents and the people. And for some, that extends to the whole country. I care about what happens to New Yorkers and Texans, Californians, okay? Because this affects us all. Our federal tax dollars that all the states send in that are given back in part, where they spend a lot on shit they shouldn't, but at least a lot of there's disaster aid, supposedly, if something happens. Now, we've seen in the last few years how well FEMA works or doesn't work. I could have told you that a long time ago, but I think people are going to be on their own if something big ever does happen. But that goes without saying. 350 to 380 million people. It's nothing to scoff at when it comes to helping everyone if something big happened. So we help each other as neighbors, as communities. Fuck, people fly across the country to help hurricane victims. And people fly from over here to help fire victims. People help to rebuild for free. We have programs and volunteer organizations where people help each other. And you see that around the world. Anytime there's chaos or a disaster, everyone's helping each other. Why does that only have to extend to the American borders? And there are a lot of people out there who truly believe that. Because I know a lot of people say, well, if we take care of ourselves first and fix our own problems, then we can help the world. I say we can fix our own problems. We have more than enough. Even if we took that money that we're sending in weapons to Israel and Ukraine, and we turned that into actual aid to help people and put that out to programs, yeah, that could change the world overnight. But I don't want to get into why wars happen, especially the one going on in the Middle East, but let's just say anybody who was denying that it was ethnic cleansing at this point, I hope you're aware that it's pretty obvious. You call a duck a duck. It's they've been completely annihilating the West Bank now. Gaza is already in ruins, and now we've got my president not only yelling at Ukraine and calling the Ukrainian president a dictator, but claiming that, as people say jokingly, that Gaza will be the new Riviera of the Middle East. Now, I know that people write this off as just being, boisterous ramblings of an old man, but this old man is the king of the castle. At this point, he's in the hot seat, he's in the president's seat, and he makes these decisions. And I would love to see, in the next few years, people be able to discuss these things rationally and say, okay, yeah, I agree with some of his policies, but now that I understand better, yes, we need to help others as well. Like, to tackle something like, for example, USAID first, it shows just to me a lack of regard for understanding of the actual important things. I hear people screaming about $50 million for condoms in Gaza. It was all bullshit. Maybe many of these stories are probably true. Yes, they do a lot of weird research and things are funded that maybe shouldn't be. But all of the, findings that could be easily eliminated. You could triple, quadruple that amount by just eliminating one aid or weapons shipment to Israel, or by, investigating some of these, black hole budgets that just go nowhere, or by eliminating tax loopholes and subsidies for huge multinational corporations. And I would like to say on that note, I don't see anybody tackling subsidies for these corporations because it benefits them. They get federal assistance, and so it should not here to turn into a ragging political video, but this is what's going on right now. You know, we have a president that wants to do everything like a business deal, but the reality is, you've got to look at people as humans. You see, you can do a business deal with somebody else on your own block when you both got equal footing, you've got your own businesses, your own money. If the business deal falls through, that's fine. Or if you don't want to help that person, that's your choice. But when it comes to those who are suffering, just like our country is stronger when we're all together, working together, and pointing the finger in the right direction, there are plenty of people out there who don't want that to be the case, and will constantly keep you divided, convince you that people with blue hair are the problem, or on the other side, that everyone in the world is just, or the country is just racist if they vote a certain way, or everyone is dumb, or everyone is this or that. We generalize as humans because it's easier for us. But I, as a liberal myself, surprise people with my viewpoints on things, liberal and conservative, because I'm like, look, don't we just have diplomacy anymore and talk about these issues? And so I would say the way we need diplomacy in the household to keep things cool extends to the community, to the city, to the state, to the entire country, and way beyond our borders. Because if the world's unstable, we are unstable. I think it would be beautiful to imagine that we could go back to a time when, we had everything we needed. But the truth is, we have a system set up of globalization now where a lot of our food and goods come from other places. We need shipping to function. We need, air travel and trucking and trains to function. And the infrastructure is set up for mass transit to deliver goods with our just-in-time society, as they call it. If you go to a grocery store, it has maybe a couple days of food at most. They used to have like a couple weeks and they'd store it. Nowadays, a lot of grocery stores just get the same, it's in and out every day. And so if something happened to our arteries, our main system, people would freak out pretty quick. And so I'm saying that our whole system is hanging by a thread. And we all play the game and try to keep it stable. Because if we don't, it's like a domino effect. You will see utter chaos. I mean, if you think, like, COVID was mild, I thought more would happen during that. After, all we had were some protests and whatnot, but people got pretty heated and pretty divided at that time over everything. And I think that's where it all kind of began, and we never came down. I don't think Trump is the problem here. I want to make this clear. Trump is a symptom. I've tried to explain this to my liberal friends. Like, Trump isn't it's not get rid of Trump and solve your problems. Trump is in office because people are angry. They want change. They want things to improve. They want the government to stop getting in their face and to stop spending so much money in taxes. Here's the thing. I agree with all of it. All of the reasons. Just even up to the raiding of the Capitol. But I make it clear, it's the intention of why people do it, or why, what's going to actually happen. The intention behind the person, the people involved, which I don't think is good. I don't trust them. I don't think that they have the people's interests at heart. I believe that, and I could be wrong, and I'd be glad to be wrong. And here's my hope, that this whole America first, fuck the rest of the world thing ends up leading Americans to, because Americans will still take care of other people and other countries. We'll do money through charities. We'll raise it on our own. If we end up saving money on taxes, which should be the ultimate, goal of this administration, they're going to reduce grocery prices and gas prices and taxes and end wars. That's great. I'd be fucking all for it. But I know that our system isn't set up to where a president can do that. I realize this. People want to blame one president for not being able to do something, and then the next president, they say that it's his, because of him that everything's great. I've never seen just so much hubris and arrogance around what we think we know about what's real and what's true. as is happening in the U.S. today. So if we can have any diplomacy at work, the way we talk to our coworkers, our boss, the way we talk to our spouse, our kids, our parents, the way we talk when we go out and do a business deal, if we could look past borders, and I don't mean get rid of borders. Borders are important because it's human nature to protect our own, just like in our houses and our towns. These are normal human behaviors. However, if we could realize that everybody on Earth, and this I would imagine goes without exception, but within every community on Earth, on average, they all want the same thing. And it's very simple. And this is before we're taught. I mean, you could say food and water and shelter, of course, the basic needs. But there's a couple that are, that we will die pretty quickly if we don't have. One is purpose, and another is connection. I think that those are the two most essential behavioral, things that we need to address when we're talking about a fulfilling life. And purpose could be anything. It's just knowing that you're doing something. It could be hard work. It could be thinking. You could be an intellectual, or you could be a ditch digger. It doesn't matter. Just having some purpose, something you strive towards, and connection, that could be in many forms. It doesn't have to be another human. Even maybe you have a dog, but I think that human connection is probably, for most humans, going to be, I don't know. I can't say for sure. Not a lot of humans live alone, and the ones you do, you don't talk to them much, right? I've heard the stories of people who lived up in the woods and heard their interviews and read about them, but generally they'll tell you it gets lonely. And so we need somebody that we can bounce ideas off. If we have those two things, then we're generally happy people. And so what does that mean? Well, what are the negatives, the things that really turn people off and turn them away from people and connections? And one would be personally insulting people for any particular reason, especially if you don't know them. And that would be, really cover all of it, like personally insulting somebody merely because they're from a different culture or have a different practice, right? It's no way to make friends, let's say. But and being ignorant of other cultures. And this is what diplomacy is about. Like when you talk about governmental diplomacy, a lot of diplomats, their job is to learn how other cultures behave and think and talk. So you don't miss the nuance in a discussion. So if your diplomat needs to talk with somebody in Zimbabwe and one of their officials, you have somebody who actually understands the general culture and the local customs that can exchange information in a way that's understandable, instead of just trying to go in with some random douchebag from Washington with Google Translate. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot to be said about all these little weird jobs people have around the world, which a lot of those are being cut right now in our government. I think they've been cutting parks service. Now they're afraid that they might not be able to open, in certain parks or certain parts of parks. It's like, to me, the national parks are a huge thing in this country. We set them aside for a reason, and I think staffing them is well worth it. Those rangers are awesome. They're always good people, and they help everybody out. And it's one of the coolest jobs. I'm sure I can't imagine just starting and getting my job cut because of, some government gutting of employees. But they're getting rid of NOAA, National Ocean and Atmospheric Association, and a whole bunch of jobs that really seem meaningless to the people in charge because they look at it like a business. These are just job cuts. And I have mixed feelings on it because the government is too bloated. But I feel like the wrong bureaucrats are being got rid of. Like, there are a lot of better corners we could cut. So I just wanted to make that clear, because we do have enough, even with all the money we waste in this country. If we were a little smarter about how much we spend on weapons and other things that we send away, as well as cutting down the waste and the bureaucracy, then we wouldn't be, $32 trillion in debt? All the last presidents have brought the debt up. The last president to actually get it down, I think, was Clinton. and he got it to, I believe, 0. Bill Clinton. Boy, those were the simple days. Just a little Lewinsky, BJ, and that's about all the controversy that we had back then. But I'll make it clear, I find it all entertaining, and it's kind of like a show to me. I didn't buy into this. I didn't sign into this. I didn't wake up one day and get a contract that said you have to care who's in charge and who's running the country or who's representing the country or anything about politics. In other words, it's not an obligation, and it reminds me of the old George Carlin when he says, a lot of people say, if you don't vote, you can't complain. And I think it's the opposite. If you did vote, you can't complain. It's like, I didn't vote. I didn't buy into the bullshit, so I can complain all I want. And I always loved that guy. I can see that from both sides, let's say. And it's true that you can still complain if you didn't vote, because we're all at mercy, especially to this two-party system that we currently have. It's a joke. It really is. But it's the dichotomy, it's this division of humanity, this division of human minds, which gets to the extremes during stressful times, to where people run to one side or the other. It's this team mentality. It's the reason you don't have 3 sports teams playing at the same time. And a lot of games are 2-player, right? There's just too much to think about it. People just want to say, which of these sides have more of my values, and then that side continues to cater to those values or claim to. It's like a foe, like, I'm going to help you guys out, I'm going to help out the people. It's always this help the little guy speech, and then you pull out your wallet and you realize that you're not making more money, that grocery prices are higher, and you say, well, how is the little guy being helped, really? But we were told it was a trickle-down economy, and we've heard all the stories, so make of it what you will. I guess I just wanted to ramble about this whole America First thing and the absurdity of watching that ridiculous thing with Zelensky. But looks like I'm running out of time. My camera might divide this into more than one video. I will see you all next time. Check out my podcast, 15-Minute Free Thinking, and if you want to help the channel, you can visit me on Patreon at Carpo719. Be well. Peace out. And don't get mad about politics. It ain't worth it.